My name is John, and the International Criminal Court is now in session. It is December 10th, 2023, and oh my goodness. A lot of things have changed, literally, since the last video. Now, from the grand scheme of things, from this large picture here that you can see on the map, it doesn't look like much, right? Well, not quite. So, without further ado, let's look at the front. So, Zaporizhzhia, or Zaporozhye, that's what they say it in Russian. The Russians are back at the gates of Robotone. They are reversing the gains made by the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the AFU, in the June 2023 counteroffensive, which, as all of you know by now, has failed. The Armed Forces of Ukraine, as we speak right now, and even Zelensky said, they're now on defense. They are no longer on the offensive. They are on defense. And so, with that, Robotone is in danger of falling back to Russia. And there's a possibility that the Russians could also, speaking of which, maybe return to the vicinity of Velika Novosilka. In fact, there's a big gray area here, which is not far from Makarivka, Uruzane, and yes, Stermyovsky. So, if the Russians were to retake all these areas here, even Niskuchne, or even Rinovopil, then the counteroffensive by the Armed Forces of Ukraine during summer 2023, as I said, with Zaporozhye, would have been completely wasted. And as far as I can see, it appears that is indeed happening. So the United States, by the way, before we continue on, we should probably talk about the U.S. So Joe Biden, earlier, I guess in November or October 2023, he talked about that Congress needed to pass a bill that would have like $60 or so billion sent to the Ukrainians to arm them to defend them against Russia in their war. With some of the billions, by the way, because here's the thing, the bill was a total $101 billion. It was going to be a package for not just Ukraine, but also for Israel to defend itself against the Palestinian militants of Hamas. So Biden literally made his bid for it. And while Democrats seem to be on board, the Republicans, however, have been demanding something to be done about our southern border with Mexico, because the situation down there is not good right now. Now, because of these issues, because of these disagreements, and the fact that we now have a very conservative speaker, more conservative so than Kevin McCarthy is, I'm talking about Mike Johnson, by the way, because of these factors, there will be no aid to Ukraine literally after this month. The final billions or like millions of dollars or so has now been shipped off to Ukraine. And for all I know, that will likely be it for the time being. And as all of you know right now, as I said in the last video about what was going on in the Gaza Strip, election 2024 is 11 months away. 11 months. And because of that, the Republicans are absolutely going to go on the offensive on Joe Biden in regards to his very bad foreign policy. Now, because of the U.S. aid going downhill, Europe is now sort of feeling like they got to take their place. But let's be honest here, people. Europe is not going to fill the void. They don't have the money, and they don't have the resources to do it. That's not going to happen. Europe does not have enough resources and weapons to send over to Ukraine, and for them to also not lose some defense either. And to show how bad things have been getting for the Ukrainians lately on the front, let me show you, okay? Now, you already saw what's going on in the Robotone direction and the Velika Novosilka direction. But what about in the Donetsk vicinity? Well, to start off, Mariinka. Big news. Mariinka, for the most part, has fallen to Russia. Mariinka, I repeat, has fallen to Russia. For the most part. Except for, these little houses here or something like that. But otherwise, Mariinka has fallen to Russia. And the road to Ugledar is now pretty much open, though they gotta clear all these villages here before they can maybe attack Ugledar again. But yeah, Mariinka has been taken. And in addition to that, the Russians have also, as I repeated, I don't know if I said this in the previous video, but they've taken their very first neighborhood in Avdiivka, and it was this small little industrial zone here. And the Russians are struggling to push through the northern neighborhoods too, and the coke plant, and in the village of Stepove. Now, another place that I want to talk about, in fact, this is huge, by the way, is the outskirts of Artyomovsk, also known as Bakhmut, as some of you may know it as. Now, as all of you remember, okay, Artyomovsk was in trouble during summer 2023. The Ukrainians went on the counteroffensive, and they had at least this much. They were so close that they almost took the village of Berkivka. They almost took it. But now, all of a sudden, in the past week or so, the Russians have now regained the initiative in Artyomovsk. They've not only retaken everything back that was lost during the summer counteroffensive, but they also gained a new foothold and have taken control of the village of Kromove, which is on the outskirts of Artyomovsk, also known as Bakhmut. The Russians have also retaken some farmlands here. And, this is the big one, by the way, the Russians are also re-entering Klishivka, which was lost to the Ukrainians also during the counteroffensive in September 2023. So, what does this all mean? Once again, as I said, folks, all of the gains made by the armed forces of Ukraine during the summer counteroffensive are being wasted. And this is partly thanks to the United States' aid dying out. And without enough aid, the Ukrainians won't be able to defend themselves against the Russians, not just here, not just in Avdiivka, not just in Velika Novosilka, not just in Ugledar, not just in Robotone, and not just in Kherson. No. Without Western aid to Ukraine, the entire left bank of the Dnieper River, left bank Ukraine that is, so we're talking about Chernihiv, aka Chernigov, Sumy, Kharkov, in Russian, Poltava, Kremenchuk, Dnipro, Petrovsk, and Zaporozhye. The entirety of the left bank Ukraine will be in serious danger of being attacked by Russia again, as it was in last winter of 2022. And I'm talking, of course, about the initial invasion in February 2022, not later winter 2022. So, what I'm expecting to happen is, if no more U.S. aid comes in, this is only if U.S. aid completely stops, is that the Russians simply grind out the Ukrainians for at least around 5 to 7 more months. And then when the summer heat comes in and when the ground completely dries up, they will go back on the offensive again. And this time, they will attempt to take all of left bank Ukraine. And now I'm also hearing reports that the Russians are getting close to outnumbering the Ukrainians in Ukraine itself. You have like nearly 500,000 volunteers signing up to join the Russian army, and then you have those additional mobilized coming up too. So by, I guess, next year or so, the Russians are going to literally outnumber the Ukrainians on their own home turf. And it's only literally a matter of time before we see the faithful offensive that could end this war and result in a Russian victory. I could literally see it happening by summer 2024. I could literally see it happening. But for now, though, we need to stick to the present day. U.S. aid for now has stopped, even Polish aid. And as far as I can see, there is no doubt in my mind that also eventually the Russians are going to take the left bank of the Oskar River, including Kupiansk. I'm absolutely confident that they're going to do this. And eventually they will also return to Liman, which they lost last fall in 2022 during the Ukrainian counteroffensive in the direction of Kharkiv. Literally, more and more land that the Ukrainians had gained will be lost, and it will be a major political disaster for not just Zelensky, but it's going to be a political disaster too for the entire EU, NATO, and yes, Joe Biden, who will be up for re-election next year. And oh my goodness, if the Russian offensive on the left bank of the Dnieper is successful, it could do to his presidency what Iran did to Jimmy Carter. Killing it. But yeah, folks, that's going to have to do it, though, for today's video. So tell me in the comment section below what you think of the current developments so far in Ukraine. I'm looking forward to interacting with you all more on this issue. And let me know, again, your thoughts in the comment section below. And tell me what you think is going to happen later down the line. So I'll see you guys all next time, and peace out. Have a good one.